I want to thank you for joining us here today for our Poll Everywhere professional development. We've had a couple requests from faculty and other stakeholders to have a little bit more learning and insight into this tool. We are going to look today at how to get started and some of the basics of getting started. Know that there are ways to integrate, multiple ways to integrate this into your teaching. So we're going to look at some of those today. One of those is an integration right into Canvas, okay? And that is going to be improving come about 2 weeks from now. Once the semester ends, we're going to upgrade that on Canvas through TLT. So we're not going to look at that aspect today. We'll probably touch on that a little bit in the new year to see how that would look inside of our learning management system. I'm not quite sure what that even looks like. So that's why I want to give us time to kind of become familiar with that. So for today, we're going to look at accessing the tool on the web platform, and then some other ways that it can be integrated into other tools that you might already be using inside of your instruction. All right, so fabulous. Let me start by sharing my screen. And we're going to start in our awesome landing place of myWidener, where we usually start for a lot of our professional developments. It was in the notes here, and we were reminded a couple times that if you do not have a Poll Everywhere account, that needs to be requested through TLT. Okay, you can always go and create your own free Poll Everywhere account, but by requesting it through TLT, that puts you in the Widener network, gives you all the pro features, gives you everything that kind of goes with a paid version, right? But without you paying for it. All right. So if you haven't done that yet, that's perfectly fine. You're welcome to do that today or as you're watching the recording or whatever works for you. But I just wanted to start here on myWidener because you can always send an email message to tlt@widener.edu. Or if you come to myWidener and you start typing Poll Everywhere, the first thing that comes up is the TLT service request form. Okay, and this is the form that's completed for anything TLT. It just so happens that the Poll Everywhere service is built into this form as well. So you look, I would like to enhance my students' learning experience. And the first example is Poll Everywhere. And then we come down to question number 2, and I would like to request an instructor Poll Everywhere account. Okay, so that can be done here on the form, along with obviously a lot of other things that TLT does, but it can also just be done through an email at tltoffice@widener.edu. I am not an admin in that system, so I'm unable to prescribe you and make you an account in that space. So that is something we have to go through them for that. I can certainly help, obviously, with any integration or any troubleshooting or things like that, but kind of that first step of account creation at the top level needs to go through that office. Okay, so let me jump back here and say I have a Poll Everywhere account, and I'm going to log in to said account. Now, I think that it's important to notice here that think about this. You as the instructor, and then you have the people on the other side, which is the learner or the people who are taking advantage of your poll. Right? They might not necessarily be students. They could be colleagues. They could be participants at a conference or some kind of other presentation. But you have two sides, right? You have the person who's running the poll and the people who are participating in the poll, right? So we're going to look at both of those sides today. When you go to polleverywhere.com, right? Pretty basic. That's you as the administrator of the polls, right? That's you logging into your account. But your students and the people who are participating in your Poll Everywhere account do not go to polleverywhere.com, okay? They go to pollev.com, all right? And we're going to look a little bit more out to how to make this our own here. But you can see that when you go to pollev.com, it's looking for a username, right? And this is whatever username belongs to the instructor or the administrator of the account. So for today's instance, as we work through this, my username in Poll Everywhere is just A Boble, the same way as my email address, right? So that could be anything for you. It could be the same as your email address. It could be Professor Hall. It could be Miss Murtha, whatever you want to make it your own so it's recognizable by your students, that can be yours. You could even come and maybe do, you know, Pop Health 485 or 486, 485, right? If you're using it for a specific course or a specific instance. So we'll look at how to kind of change that a little bit. But I wanted to differentiate between that to start, right? You have two ends of this. You have the people who are running the polls and the people who are partaking in the polls. So when we're building, and a lot of our time here today, we're going to look at how to run the polls and how to start all these things. So we're in polleverywhere.com. Okay. When you do that, you're asked to log in. That would be your username, probably your email address, your binary email address, and your password. As of right now, meaning today, this does not work on a single sign-on system, right? So you have a separate password for Poll Everywhere than you have for other things. Now, you might have made it the same as your Widener password, or you might have made it a password that you already had before, but this doesn't use our single sign-on feature. That will change once the Canvas integration changes. Okay, then we're going to be single sign-on. We go up a level in Poll Everywhere subscriptions. That allows everything to kind of be tied into what we do. So from then on, when you go into your Poll Everywhere account, if you're logged into Canvas, you're logged into email, you're going to be logged into Poll Everywhere. Okay, all that stuff will work together. All right. So here I am. I've already signed in. I'm going to spend a bunch of time here on this page, but before we kind of get to that, I want to look at the basics of your account, right? We talked about what your name is, what that kind of /abobel might be, or whatever you want to make it. It goes by default to your username, but we're going to spend the first couple minutes down here in the bottom left-hand corner, and it's a gray silhouette. It's the last icon. It's called your profile, okay? And just like any service we have, these are the if, ands, and buts behind the scene that are running the show, right? And this first one is a great place to start. This is, what is your account, right? Your pollev or your pollev.com. And like I said, in my case, it's /abobel, okay? That might be particular to your name. If your name is a little bit harder to spell, maybe it's just prof and a letter or a set of numbers or whatever that might be. Again, you want to make it easy, right? We know that all of us don't have exactly the easiest names, and our students might not necessarily call us a formal name if that's something that we don't necessarily require them to do. So make this easy for your students, right? Because they're going to be logging in on a computer or going to a device or whatever they might do. You want them to spell it. You want them to be able to spell it correctly, right? You want them to be able to hit the correct characters, not mess up a consonant or a vowel or whatever that might be. So make this easy for them to get to. Another great feature here outside of your name is it gives you the ability to download a QR code right off the bat. All right. Now, this QR code goes right to your Poll Everywhere environment. So instead of giving them a link to a specific question or giving them a link to a specific set of tasks, here you're saying, here's my Poll Everywhere QR code. Whatever you activate, the students will see when they scan this QR code, okay? So this QR code is static, right? This QR code can go on a Canvas homepage, it can go in a module, it can go in an assignment, it can go in the bottom of your PowerPoint slide, wherever that might be to get students in the environment, but it's static, okay? It only goes to this place. Now, of course, as we get a little bit further here, there are ways to share specific questions or specific folders, right? But here we're saying, okay, I just want to go to the top layer. Anything I put out there, any question I put out there, anything I want users to do, if they scan this QR code, they will go right to that question, that poll, whatever I'm giving them in that moment. Okay. And we'll look a little bit further at that, but I thought that was a really good feature, especially for those of us who might find ourselves using this on a more regular basis. This QR code can be saved and, like I said, put right in the bottom of your PowerPoint slide. And now anytime you're talking about Poll Everywhere, anytime you want to increase that engagement, anytime you want to ask the students about something, that QR code is right there for them to scan and to access your poll. All right. We're not fumbling around. We're not looking for an address. We're not wondering how to spell something. We're not, oh, wait, I didn't get it. Can you put it back up on the screen? No, it's there all the time. It's there for you. It's just in the bottom right-hand corner, and students can access it at will in that case. I think as far as the rest of the settings on the profile page are pretty self-explanatory. As far as your email address, your password, your phone number, things like that. You're certainly able to sign up for other kind of tips and things. I have that stuff set at no because I'm in here all the time anyway. But if you're fairly new to the system and you don't mind getting flooded with a couple of emails here and there, no harm in checking yes, so that you have the latest correspondence. And of course, they're just like anything, they're always updating, right? There's always new features coming out, things like that. So it's great to kind of stay in the loop in that sense to make sure we have the most extensive knowledge possible. I want to make my way down from personal info to activity settings. These go very in depth as to how students can respond, what they're able to do. Notice that there is a default setting here. So a lot of these settings that we're looking at the top level can also be set by question as well. So you'll see here, change answer. There's no default set here. So when I go in and I'm developing a single question or a set of questions, I have the ability in that space as well to say whether my students can go in and change their answer or address what they've already put. All right, so a lot of these things, again, exist at multiple layers. Here we are at the top layer, and then we can drill down to individual questions. It's kind of the same way you think about your modules inside of Canvas, right? I can publish that top layer of the module, and then I have individual things and individual pieces inside of each module. Each one of those things can be published as well. So everything has its kind of its own rights and settings to it. Same thing here. We have the top layer for the entire account, but we can always change these settings when it comes to a specific poll or a specific question that the participants are taking place in. Okay, we'll go a little bit further to our connected accounts. You'll notice that here you are in Widener. If you use Slack, you can always add it to Slack. I don't use Slack in an environment of education. I have Slack with a group chat, with a bunch of buddies and stuff like that. So I wouldn't need Poll Everywhere in there, but there are some other integrations there for Slack. As we work, and I want to spend a little bit of time on the connected accounts because we're not going to spend a lot of time here today. If this is something you want to look a little bit further into on your own, I would be happy to sit and spend time with you looking at that. But Poll Everywhere, outside of allowing you to embed questions and just put them on a web page here, also has a bunch of desktop apps, okay? Meaning that they have plugins that work with other applications you're already using. So they have a PowerPoint app, right? So what this does is inside of your PowerPoint screen here, in your top kind of design page, you'll get a Poll Everywhere tab up top, right? And this allows you to put a Poll Everywhere question or space right inside the PowerPoint without jumping outside to a web page or going anywhere else. Now, the thing that is specific about this is it belongs to the PowerPoint tool, right? So if you install this add-on on your computer, that's great. It's on PowerPoint on your computer, but it's not on PowerPoint on the computer in Founders 306, okay? So it's specific to the computer and the program it belongs on. So I've worked with a couple of people who have used this in other environments or have used it inside of a conference setting. In that case, those are kind of public computers, right? You don't necessarily have a password to download anything. You don't want to put anything extra on there. So in that case, we kind of just jump to the website, but there is a PowerPoint add-on there, as well as Keynote. If you use the Keynote tool, we also have a Google Slide tool. Don't tell anyone inside of Widener ITS that you're using Google Slides. If you are, I will turn the other way. You should be using Office 365 products, but you are grown professionals. And if Google Slides is what you're using, that's perfectly fine. But again, I don't know about it. Okay, please use your Office 365 tools. There's another one, Microsoft Teams, right? We've talked a little bit about Teams in our PD. Teams are on Widener campus, but for the most part, they're used extensively through our administration and through people across campus as far as instant messaging and working together and collaborating that way. We don't have a lot of students in the Teams environment, but it's certainly a place where you could have your students. It allows for organization, it allows for flow, it allows for folders, it allows for a whole bunch of sharing of things. So there's also integration here with Poll Everywhere. So we can always touch a little bit more on Teams at another time as we kind of ramp that up a little bit. And then here's another tool called Participant. I don't have anyone that has ever asked me about Participant, but that's another tool you can plug into. And then, of course, we talked about Slack there as well. The last thing I want to spend a little bit more time on in the profile here before we jump into the actual questions is the branded response page. Ooh. This allows you to kind of make your own environment where students are landing, allows you to change the colors, allows you to put in a different kind of symbol, right? So this is a place to make it your own. There is a default, obviously, where we land, where we are, you see here on the right-hand side, but we can always go in and change this. You can see we can put a logo in, we can put a title as far as those things go. So you make it your own rather than your own default kind of Poll Everywhere page. So I thought that's another good touch. That comes with your Widener account, right? If you create a free Poll Everywhere account, you do not get that branded response page. So we kind of get a little bit further here with the Widener paid stuff. We're allowed to kind of take it a step further, call it Dr. Murtha's page, and put up a picture of, whatever reminds you of that course or something that your students take a look at, maybe your textbook or, whatever image you have on the front of your Canvas page. So something to kind of jog their eye there. So that's a really good feature there. Again, just like anything that we talk about, or I shouldn't say anything, just like the majority of things we talk about inside of these sessions, Google friendly. Okay, Poll Everywhere is being used by millions of other people across the United States and across the world. So there are videos, PowerPoints, how-tos, guides, all of that stuff out the wazoo. So if you're stuck on something, you're wondering how to do something, Google is your friend here. We are certainly not in uncharted waters as far as it comes to using this tool. I'm going to pause there real quick, see if I have any questions in the chat on profile. I do not. I'm going to keep it going so that we can spend a good amount of time on what they call the activities inside of Poll Everywhere. Okay, just like everywhere, or just like, I'm going to try not to use everywhere after I say Poll Everywhere, because that's really confusing. So just like most spaces, they have their own lingo, right? So here, a new question or a new task, they use the word activity, right? So here we are on this kind of front landing page. You can see that we land on My Activities, and similar to our OneDrive, right underneath My Activities, we have Shared with Me. So if you've created something as a course coordinator, or you created something as an instructor in Chester and you want to share with someone in Harrisburg, or you want to share with another colleague that's teaching the 2-part of your one course, whatever that might be, we can always share those. So you'll find those inside of your Shared with Me. But obviously your activities are what you've created, what you have started. All right. So outside of the plus activity here, another great feature we have is folders, right? So just like most systems, we want to be able to stay organized. Unfortunately, and this is the one thing I think Poll Everywhere could do a little bit better, is it's activity. It's never activities, right? It doesn't really allow you to create 4 questions in a row. You go to the next activity. So you can toggle to the other ones, but if you created all of these in a row, you can imagine throughout a semester, you teach 3 courses. Even if each one of those 3 courses has 10 activities in it, you'll have 30 items on this page in no time. Okay. So as an instructor, that can be a little cumbersome. What am I looking at? Where do I go to? How can I better organize that? I encourage you to use folders. So inside of my Pop Health folder, I can put my Pop Health questions. Inside of my Advanced Pharm folder, I can put my Advanced Pharm questions. Inside of my informatics folder, I can put my informatics questions, right? So it kind of allows you to just stop at that top layer. And then of course, if you have kind of overall questions of what do you need more help on? What do you feel like you learned really well today? Kind of these general broad questions, then of course we can always keep those at this top level because you want to be able to access those in every course. But if you're asking questions specific to your Pop Health content or specific to your advanced pharm content, put those things inside of those folders so that they can be used inside of that environment. And then of course, outside of just sharing a single question, I can share my entire Pop Health folder with all of my colleagues that are teaching Pop Health with me. And as a course coordinator, that's extremely helpful, right? So here are my 15 questions that I know I'm going to have to ask, or I know I want my other colleagues and my students to look at before exam one or before the midterm. I can share that entire folder with them, and those things can be created in there. And not only that, maybe you're working with a colleague and you say, hey, I'm going to create 5 questions. You can create 5 questions. Now those 10 questions are in that folder together, and you both can use them cooperatively within the same setting. So it does a good job of that. Obviously, there's your share right there. Okay. Now, here, when you see share, it's looking for a team, not an individual user. So right now, I don't have any teams created in my account. So it's saying, oh, the only team you're on is everyone at Widener University. Now, that means what it says. So if I click that and click save, now everyone at Widener University will have a Pop Health folder inside of their shared with me. And you'll probably get a couple emails of, hey, what's this? What's going on here? So just be careful there. So if I do want to share, here's your teams on the left-hand side. Okay. And we can do a new group. All right. And inside of that group, you see, here are your Widener users. You can share with some of those people inside of there. Here's your teams as well. Okay. And we want to be able to share with those teams. All right. So a little bit of work, obviously, that goes into being able to push that content out to other individuals and get it to those people in that manner. All right. I'm going to pause there for a second because we're about halfway. And I don't have anything in the chat. Want to give you the ability to unmute yourself and ask any questions you might have at this point. All right, fabulous. Perfect. That means I'm doing a great job. Let me go into, go ahead, Benny.
Now, there are 2 ways that you have addressed. One is creating that link, polev.com/abobel, and the other one is that, what do you call that symbol?
The share?
QR code.
Oh, the QR code.
Code. Sorry, I just forgot the name. QR code. Yeah. So it is either or. That means either you can share the poll everywhere with that link or with the QR code. Is it a possibility that some people may think I can do double, like have both the QR code as well as the link?
Yes, absolutely. It's just, think about it as a house. You're either going in the front door or going in the back door. You're still going to the same place. So if you go through the QR code, you're going to the same place as the link. And outside of that, Banny, I'm going to show you a couple other ways that people can respond. Okay, because that was just one way inside of our profile. But you'll see when we get into these kind of specific activities here, like we're going to jump into what's your name. We're going to see a bunch of ways that students can participate outside of just scanning the QR code or putting in the polev/abobel. Okay, so let's take a look at those. All right. So here we are, we're in a learning setting. You're the students, I'm the instructor. We're getting to know each other. I'm asking, what's your name? Okay. Now, don't do anything yet, because you have a couple things you need to do as the instructor. Right now, you're a Boble, right? You're driving the show here. So here's my question, right? This poll, when poll is active, please respond. Here's that address that you and I saw inside of the profile, right? The pollevery.aboble. You can also take your QR code and drop it here in the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. Or you can send a text message to this address and respond to the poll that way. All right. Now notice it says when poll is active. You need to do that. So in the top right-hand corner of this, you as the instructor and as the moderator of the poll need to click activate. Okay, now you'll see that it says respond at pollevery.com/aboble or text. If you have a computer in front of you or something else, please respond to this poll. You can also click on your instructions in the bottom corner, and it will display those instructions a little bit bigger for students. Okay, so there's kind of a bunch of ways to push this out so we make sure we get the responses that we need. Okay, a couple other things outside of your activate up top. You also have the present screen. This will kind of put you in a PowerPoint present mode, right? It takes you to full screen, takes those settings off. This is a great way to display the data to the students, right? They don't necessarily need to see all the settings on the right-hand side. So when you're kind of going over what's been said or looking at the results of something, this is a great place to go into this place into your present mode to see this. This would be the same thing that you would get on a slide if you were in the middle of PowerPoint and you had the PowerPoint plugin, right? So as you're going through your slides and you talk about your content on one slide and you say, okay, we're going to do a poll everywhere question, you advance to the next slide, you get a slide like this where your poll everywhere is integrated. Okay, I just hit escape on my keyboard to come out of there. And just like we talked about inside of our top layer of settings, here are your individual question settings, right? How can people respond? Through a website, through a text message? What are the restrictions? Who can participate? What are the settings? How many people can respond? Can they change their answer? Is there a reply message? Moderation. This kind of goes well depending on the size. There is a profanity filter inside of here in case someone's trying to be a smart aleck in our large groups. So that's something to keep in mind. And emojis are always good, right? We know that our students are using those anyway. So if, they want to put it, how are you feeling today? Allow them to use an emoji, allow them to put a heart by something they learned well or they feel like they're doing well, right? So that's the way the students are discussing with themselves and the way they talk normally. So why not let them use that inside of this space as well? Okay, here is your test page. You can see that here it's kind of just sitting. It gives you a kind of an overview of what this looks like as a user. Same thing with the text message screen. And then here we get to the send as well. Here is now, Benny, this goes a little bit further, right? We talked about the QR code. We talked about the poll everywhere address. We talked about texting. You can also get a link to this specific question. So this link takes me to the presentation. Okay, so I can give them that link as well. You can also copy the embed script. Now, what's the embed script? The embed script is something that you can put right on a Canvas page in a course, and the poll will show up right on the page. So here I am in modules. Here's a poll everywhere question. And I will go to my cloud with my greater than less than, which is my embed code. And I'll paste that embed code that I just grabbed from my poll everywhere settings. Click submit, click save. And now when I click in that module, I get the ability to jump right into my Poll Everywhere question. Okay, so if you're working with students and you want them to be able to, what's your name? My name is Andrew. Now here's a student I submitted. And now here as an instructor, I can see Andrew's submission less than a minute ago, right? And I can say in the front of the class, okay, Andrew, thank you so much for submitting. There you are, perfect. Right, and I'm allowed to submit up to 3 times. So I could say over here again, and my name is Kathy. And again, I'll come back and I will see Kathy pop up, right? So I am getting real-time responses. Now, keep in mind, this is very generic. What's your name? But there's endless possibilities here. What do you still need more help on, right? You can ask a open-ended multiple choice question and just get the response here. We're going to jump into the specific type of questions here in a second. Go ahead, Marianne.
Andrew, I somehow got into Mary Young's poll and it's not active. So what does a student need to do to respond?
If they are responding to me, they would go to pollevery.com/abobel. So chances are when you did the pollevery.com, you have something behind that slash that took you to Miss Young's Poll Everywhere instead of abobel's Poll Everywhere.
So I just type in pollev.com/abobel.
That's correct. And that's the same thing that your students would do inside of your learning environment. Or if yours is set up for your MA Murtha, they would do pollevery.com/MA Murtha. And that jumps them into your environment or whatever question you're asking. Okay. There's Lori. Thanks, Lori. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're getting real-time submission here. Obviously, this is an open-ended question, right? So we're just seeing whatever text is coming in. Let's jump into our activities here. And I want to show you a multiple choice question. Very basic. What is your favorite color? Right? And we can imagine that this would be different nursing questions and different answers. All of the answers are right, but we want our students to find the best one, right? So that's a great time to practice this here. We can talk about our different questions, our distractors, the different types of question stems. What can we rule out? What part of the nursing process needs to come first here? All of those things that as nursing experts go through your head, but we have to try to develop that dialogue that needs to happen within a student's head when they're looking at that question. So these are great opportunities for you to display that thinking, right? They can't see the inside of your head, but this is what am I thinking, right? This is the metacognition of it, thinking about thinking. And that's what we need our students to do here. We need to look at the question and we need to diagnose the question and we need to teach them to think about it. So this is a great opportunity to do that. We have a very open response. Students can join in whatever way they want. We can sit here. It's anonymous. I'm not saying, wow, Susie, you really got that one wrong. Where the heck were you last Thursday when we talked about it? Okay. We know that's not going to go over well. So this is a very open-ended, wow, we had a lot of people who thought this was the correct answer, but look at the distractor in this question. This is step 2 of the process. You need to do this first. Look at the question. It's saying, what do you need to do first? And all of those kind of dialogues and pieces of information really lend themselves well to an environment here where you can create these types of questions, right? So that's a multiple choice. I'm going to jump a little bit further. And we're going to see a little bit more of this inside of our undergraduate development day. It's coming up next Thursday, I believe. We have a couple presentations. Donna and I are touching on next gen NCLEX technology. So we're going to, this is one thing we're going to look at because of the types of questions we can create in here outside of our just kind of multiple choice, pick an answer. We have some other ones here. So I'm going to start there. We looked at our folders. We looked at the different kinds of questions here. Again, just like anything, I encourage you to come in here and explore, right? You cannot break this. So come in, make yourself comfortable. Because as you can see, with all the different ways of sharing and kind of the different ways to get to it and that, it can be a little, well, I'm not sure. And I even worked with someone a couple weeks ago, and they had trouble signing into their account, and they said, well, I can't get to it. How comes I can't get to it? They were on the student page. So it was looking for the login for what classroom or what room you're trying to go to. They weren't on the admin page. So just like anything, you know, you got to kind of get your feet wet and get comfortable in here so that when you are in front of students, you're not kind of bumbling around. It's hard for them to take things seriously when it doesn't seem like, not that you don't know what you're doing, but you're not well versed in it. So this is a good thing to practice, right? A good thing to practice with a colleague, a good thing to practice with myself, with other people around you, to make sure it's going to run right and to make sure you're getting what you want to get from students so that you're not wasting that very valuable instruction time that we know that exists within our courses, right? If you're going to spend time and you're going to do an activity like this, you want to make sure it's valuable and useful. So I encourage you to kind of, you know, tread in the water a little bit before you jump in, right? So let's take a look at our different types of activities. Obviously, the majority of us start with a multiple choice question. That is the default start. You can click more and this becomes massive, right? We have multiple choice. We have word clouds, question and answer, clickable images, survey, open-ended, competition, donut chart, icebreaker, upvote, leaderboard, emotional scale, presentation feedback, spotlight, retrospective, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read them all to you. I don't even know what all these are. Okay. Guilty. I don't even know what they all are. So again, I see ranking, right? We know we have to rank order on NextGen NCLEX. So that's a great place to start. We obviously know we're going to have multiple choice, right? And inside of our multiple choice, it allows you to not just do one, but multiple choices, right? So we can do select all that apply. We know we're going to see that on our NCLEX. Word cloud outside of this is a great place to capture people's feelings. I always go back to that default of what do I still need help with? What do I still need to get better at, right? So as your students are typing, the system is creating a word cloud of their words. So if 5 people say heart disease and one person says parts of the heart, then your heart disease is going to be much bigger and emphasize in your word cloud than just the parts of the heart. You as the instructor and as the students know that this is a main topic. This is something that a lot of people are saying. So rather than saying, okay, how many people said heart disease? It's a very quick check and go, right? As the instructor, what do my students need more help with? Let's do this poll everywhere word cloud. Please type, what do you need more help with? And then you as the instructor don't have to go through and count, okay, I have this 6 times, I have this 7 times. You can look at the word cloud and see what words are big, what concepts are bigger, and know that those are things that you need to touch on and spend some more time on to help kind of clear up those misconceptions of your students. We also looked at clickable images. They talked about this a little bit in NextGen NCLEX, right? We want to be able to look at a picture, decide what's wrong with it, look at a chart, decide what's out of place, look at a medication chart, decide what calculation's wrong, whatever that might be. So we know that the clickable images can be used in multiple fashions, but this is exactly what it is, right? You can take any image, and we can obviously make any image as far as a chart or a hospital scene or bedside, man, you know, whatever that might be, we can make those images and you can put that stuff in here and have students click on what's wrong, or have students click on what they would do first, or have students click on the calculation that might be incorrect, right? So we have a couple ways that we can go with that. We saw the open-ended question when it came to you typing out your name, right? Very basic. And another one in here that kind of gives us our oomph for gamification and engaging our students is our leaderboard, right? And this goes with our timer. How quick did you answer? How fast did you get it? So that puts kind of a little bit of competition inside of the course. So there's a couple different ways that we can go with this. And again, I encourage you to explore, right? Can't break it. Go out, see what you can do, see what you can make, see what you can make your own. It's all great stuff there. Let me pause there for a second because I have a couple here. Does Poll Everywhere capture dates of responses for the same question? That's a great question, Kathy. Let me take us back to what is your name? And you can see that I will get basic 10 minutes ago. When I came in here earlier, I did this for, I don't know when I did it, but I did it a while back. It said A Boble 18 months ago. So it's not giving you a specific date, but it is giving you a time period. And then if you wanted to take it and you wanted to think about, kind of scrubbing it, you just come to clear responses. And then that way it starts all over. So if you're using the same one over and over, like you said, for attendance, or using it for a very basic question, what do you need more help on? Or what was the hardest thing about the assignment, or whatever that is, you can always go in, clear responses, and then go back and start for the next thing. Matrices are used in the next gen questions. Yes, they are. Perfect. That's another link there. Oh, I like that idea, Kathy. I like that idea too, Meg. Perfect. Marianne, hand raised or still from last time?
No, no, actually, what I was going to say, I have used Poll Everywhere when I had big classes, and I would do think, pair, share, and then I would use short answer for them to report out as a group, like what they came up with, or that way, because then I could see, like kind of take a pulse of the class to see what they were thinking and what was most important to them. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what was the most important section. But that way, like when I'm doing like think, pair, share, to have all them try and report out was just too much. But Poll Everywhere was very good for that.
That's awesome, Marianne. I love that point. And then you're taking the kind of interactive lecture part of it, having your students talk to each other, the Marzano strategy of think, pair, share. So we know that increases engagement. That's been proven. And then, like you said, it allows you to kind of differentiate inside of that Poll Everywhere, rather than getting 180 responses, just getting 90 responses can certainly help in a large environment, and for you diagnosing kind of some of those misconceptions and gaps of knowledge. So I love that, Marianne. Thank you so much for that idea. I appreciate that. Meg, go ahead.
Hi, Andrew, can you repeat what you said about this? And are you doing something with like the next gen NCLEX type questions?
Yeah, on the faculty development day, which is Thursday, the 9th in person, we have multiple sessions set up. I think Joanne's doing one on ATI and is going to touch some of that NCLEX stuff in there. And then Donna and I have teamed up to look at some of the integration from the Nurse Tim and the stuff that's going on inside of their webinars as far as next gen. And then I'm taking the reins at looking at tools that we can use to kind of create some next gen test questions and what we already have to kind of scratch the surface on those things. So yeah, that's on the 9th.
Okay, that was my next question. Like, do you think we'll be able to kind of get similar of those, long questions with examples of charts and all those things? Do you think we'll be able to eventually kind of formulate that through Poll Everywhere?
That is my goal.
Okay.
And if not through Poll Everywhere, we're going to look at how to do some of that stuff in Qualtrics too.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So we're going to kind of give us multiple platforms to kind of go to, depending on what you're comfortable with. And then of course, ATI is, you see the stuff come across our emails every 3 days, that the next gen NCLEX stuff is in there. So a couple places that we're going to be able to kind of ramp this kind of question asking and stuff up for our users to get them ready for that. So yeah, that'll be good.
Okay. And then can I ask you one more question? And I don't know if
Sure.
this is something you can answer, but
Absolutely.
would this ever be able to go into kind of an ExamSoft, like where they could pair some of these questions, or is that kind of an ExamSoft thing where it would be up to them if they're allowing us to create questions that would be similar to the next gen questions?
Correct. That would be an ExamSoft thing.
Okay.
And we, that's particular to that system.
Yeah.
What I've heard is ExamSoft is going to have, kind of a next gen add-on. I don't know how much that's going to cost or if that's something we're even going to do. I think it kind of depends on how far ATI takes it, because we're already using ATI. Students are already in ATI. We're already making them use it. We're already paying for it. So if ATI does a great job with it, I don't think there's necessarily a whole lot of need to have it at the ExamSoft level, but those are all ongoing conversations. But great point there, Meg.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
No problem. Any other questions before I wrap up here? I have one more thing I want to touch on before I end here today. That was a quick 50 minutes. So I thank you for your attention and your questions so far. I want to go back to our activities page. And the one thing I want to show you is that when you are here, and we talked about putting our questions kind of in folders, if they're specific to classes, specific to courses, or specific to a presentation or whatever that might be. We also looked at how to activate the questions so that responses can be collected, right? Because again, this only exists in one instance. So even though I have my 4 activities here on my front page, none of these are active until I click activate. So no one can participate in them until I activate. So what I wanted to show you was not only can we activate here from this top page, but very quickly for those questions we know we're going to ask all the time, or those questions that might be kind of open-ended for the course or open-ended for the session, we can activate right here on the front page by clicking your activate button in the toolbar. So again, just like we talked about with our settings for the questions, you have these kind of settings all over the place, right? You can activate at this layer, you can activate at the question layer. You can set up the response settings at your account level. You can set up the response settings at the question level. You can set up the questions here on the front page, or you can set them up in the level of your folders. So it's really all over the place. It's up to you to make it your own, whatever you're comfortable with. And again, just like a lot of technology things we use, it's always changing, right? So you become comfortable with it. You say, okay, I'm going to use it this way. And then all of a sudden you find a new way to use it. Or you see someone else using it a different way. Oh man, I never thought of that. I really could see myself using it that way too. So some of those things come from there. I hope that you get a little bit of time to dabble in this. Certainly here as we kind of wrap up fall, but again, we'll touch on it again on the 9th a little bit within that session. And then of course, as you start thinking about your spring courses, right? Just like anything, and any tool that I kind of bring forth to you and things we talk about, especially when it comes to engagement and kinds of these things to ramp up our motivation in students, with discretion, in moderation. This is not something that we're using every day. This is not something we're saying, hey, did you guys do the poll everywhere? It's due tomorrow. Okay. You're adding another anxiety to your students. This is something to capture knowledge in a quick sense. This is something, like I said, to address some of those misconceptions that you saw in an exam previously, to talk about some of those distractors that come with some of those questions, to use as an exit ticket at the end of class, or at the end of a unit, or at the end of a week, or at the end of a module, right? So I could see it being used each class in some sort of manner, but again, it kind of loses its bang if you're using it every class. So be careful with that, okay? We can always find other ways to have our students participating or telling us what they know or don't know, or helping us address misconceptions. There's always a variety of ways to do that. We don't want to drown them in poll everywhere. The same way we don't want to drown them in Kahoot. The same way we don't want to drown them in breakout rooms in Zoom. It loses its bang when we're using it all the time. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as you go forward. Obviously, if you're using it for attendance, then you use it every day, and that's perfectly fine. I could see it being used in that fashion. But if you're using it in a different manner, just try to keep that in mind in your planning as you're thinking through things. How long is the data saved? What do you mean, Kathy? The responses on each slide?
I'm just thinking, like if we were looking at it for attendance for a semester.
It saves until you clear responses.
Oh, okay.
So the one thing about this is, if you were, like, say I use this sheet as attendance, you'll notice that there's no way for me to export this. Like I just get a page that has names on it.
Yeah, so what in order to use this, we'd have to put a question in every day for that day of attendance, and then you just leave it be there.
Yes.
And then kind of open it and close it and
Yeah.
activate it, unactivate it, and let
Right.
it be as it is.
Right.
I'm
So
just
this-
trying to think of different ways to capture large group classes.
I 100% agree with you, Kathy. And really the same thing that you're going to get from, you know, the QR codes and the stuff
Yeah.
on the other end is someone can do this from anywhere.
Right.
Right. If they know
Right.
you're taking attendance and you're activating the beginning of the class, they wait till 9 o'clock.
Right.
They know it's activated. They go to your poll everywhere. They type their name.
Right.
You deactivate it. It's just like they're sitting in the back of the room, except they're
Exactly.
sitting in
And
their
that's
dorm.
why
So,
I'm trying to figure out some other ways.
yeah. So, you know, it's maybe you're asking them a question and having them include their name as well. Right. So maybe the
Right.
question is oral and you're
Right.
saying, what is da 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 da? They answer their question and they type their name. So the
Right,
people
yeah.
who aren't there wouldn't know the question because they can't hear it orally. And again, you're activating and deactivating. So you kind of have double layer to wean out those people who might be trying to trick the system.
Right.
But
I
something
often
like
use
that.
them- Yeah, I often use like a math problem. That's how
Yeah,
I've
That would be
taken-
a great way to do it.
I've taken attendance by doing math problems, and I
Yeah.
never take attendance at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm looking at, I might be wrong here because I see a response history. Oh, see, I can grab that,
Oh, look, there's a, oh,
but
look,
I can
yeah,
grab it in each instance.
Nice.
So I can grab this per day. So
Got
say,
it.
okay, I did it here today. I download the spreadsheet. I name the spreadsheet 11:30. I clear the responses.
Good stuff.
Now I can go and do it again on 12/7, download that sheet, clear the responses. So I stand corrected. You can do it that way. I've never used it.
See,
and gathering in that
and that's
manner.
what I was hoping for, because like Qualtrics, you can do it, but it's just not, it's more screens to get through all the stuff.
Yeah, that's a
This
good
is-
point.
This is like click, open, let them in, close it, and then, you know, at some point the next day before you have class, you need to download the Excel.
Right. Perfect.
Andrew, a quick question before we end.
Go ahead, Banny. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say we are on one question which is activated and the students are responding. Then we click for the second question. So is the first question still active? That means they can continue to respond when we are opening up the second question, or we have to activate the first question, deactivate the first question, then again go to the second question. How does it work?
Only one question is active at a time.
Okay.
So if you toggle, let me show
Mhm.
you. If you toggle here, say I'm starting on what's your name, right? And I activate this. Now here, just like we have in PowerPoint, I toggle over to what's your favorite color. Now I activate that deactivated my what's your name question. Okay. So only one can be active at a time, because if you're going to pull every /A Boble,
Mhm.
you're seeing whatever I have active. So I can't have multiple things on there at one time. You won't know what to answer. So only one thing is active at a time, and you just toggle over with your arrows at the bottom to get from each one.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
No problem, Banny. Glad I could help with that. Any other questions? We are 2 minutes ahead of schedule. I really appreciate your time today. I think we had not only good conversation, but great questions. I hope this kind of sparked your interest in your idea of how you can use this tool. And like I said, we'll continue the conversation a little bit deeper into specific next gen stuff on the 9th when we come to that. This session's being held again tomorrow at 1 o'clock. You're welcome to join on that one. Will be similar conversations, a little bit different dialogue depending on who shows up and what questions they have. But again, I appreciate your attendance today, and I thank you for joining me. If you have anything that comes up, please don't hesitate to reach out. happy to help you with Poll Everywhere or anything else that might be, just shoot me an email. I certainly do have a minute now, Kathy, no problem. I'm just going to stop the recording